windshield of technology has been removed. I wonder how long a microbat will last. A virtual worm will squirm. A turkey vulture will hover. An army of simulated ants will continue to dig, or a human clone, for that matter, will continue to drone. In the question concerning technology, Martin Heidegger was both right and wrong. He was correct in noting that human identity has been deeply shaped by being swept along in a larger, ineluctable technological destiny not of its own making, and certainly outside its full understanding. But he was, I believe, really wrong in not noting as well that the destiny of technology is also deeply enmeshed in the mysterious ways of the being, of that singularity we call a human being. Like human identity before it, technological identity is also swept along in a human destiny not of its own making, and certainly invisible to its full understanding. And just as humans come into their essence with an understanding of technology, so too I believe the future of technology may only come into its full essence with an understanding of human ineluctability. After the drones, a world of strange symmetries and strange symbiotics, and certainly cynical power. I conclude with drone flesh. Heidegger again. In his letter on humanism, Martin Heidegger argued that the epoch of the human comes with our coming into subjectivity. Vibrant beings invested with a sense of technological mastery over nature, guaranteed by the Word of God herself to be the very top of the huddle in the hierarchy of species beings, who, as Nietzsche said, finally caught the interest of the jaded gods of pagan times, because these human beings were a gamble, a crossing over. They were really content to live with nausea over their own existence, as long as they were a creative drive to the future, as long as they could be promised to be a shaper of new worlds, a will to power, a will to technology, and nothing besides, because nothing else really counted. If this is the case, then perhaps we can today write the epilogue to Heidegger's letter of humanism in the form of text messages about the post-human. That point where something equally epical has taken place, where the whole post-human body literally shapeshifts out of the old body of the human with its now discarded subjectivity and takes on the virtual form of drone flesh. No longer a human being, as Heidegger prophesied, coming into subjectivity, but something new is in our presence. A post-human being coming into transsubjectivity. Like post-human culture, drone flesh is just everywhere now. Thinking like an algorithm, seeing computationally, packed with technology, volatilized by the kinetic energy of connectivity, slumping into inertia when it kept on its waiting cycle. Trans subjects that are literally charged up, digitally coming alive by the newest of the new technological apps. If drones can be so fascinating and so endlessly seductive, both for their engineering feats of the technological sublime and their truly double nature as beautiful specters and ominous skin slayers, that is because their appearance only confirms a subtle, but for that matter, no less dramatic change that has already taken place. Namely, that long before there were drones in the sky, in the water and fire and air and earth, there were already imaginary drones at home. Drones that long ago nested in the technological skin of the post-human. Drone dreams that took to the flesh of the very first of the post-human, burrowing deeply into the bodies and minds and feelings of a once and future population of post-human trans subjects. Now, in the way of all mythic stories, technology and the story of technology always comes late to the feast. Long before the technicity of unmanned perception and augmented intelligence and robotic flight, the post-human imaginary has already unraveled the illusion of the real in advance. It's what makes post-human culture so tough and so adaptable. It is prepared to be its own condition of possibility. It is prepared to daily cross the abyss of nausea with its own pit of seeing like an algorithm, of thinking computationally, to be packed with technology, to come alive at the sound and sights of greater connectivity, as long and as only as long as it can be a will, the technological creator of its own destiny, and nothing besides. Trained subjects, in fact, have always demonstrated a really enduring willingness to live with the dangers of technology, not so much to experience the saving power of technology, that's Heidegger's story, but to do something far more interesting, namely to live in the fractured and liminal and unpredictable and charged space between danger and the saving power. That is why I believe what is most appealing about drone technology is its fatal incommensurability. It's truly dangerous, and sometimes it may even be a saving power. But in the end, it's finding neither one nor the other, but it's both at the same time. And it's both precisely because it introduces a fatal, enigmatic tension to existence that we can finally find ourselves truly comfortable and at the same time fundamentally disturbed with the prospect of being wrapped in the skin of drone flesh, sometimes on the outside, but now always deepest in our interior imaginations. Now, not to be denied their presence in the fatal logic of the fourfold, whether Heidegger's fourfold of earth and sky and air and water, Jean Baudrillard's fourfold of the logic of the simulacrum, or McLuhan's fourfold of the tetrad, the moral economy of drones also possesses its own fourfold of drone logic. In their very first appearance, drones always mask themselves under the comforting signs of obviously counterfeit imitations, visibly imperfect imitations of human sense organs. It was not very long ago that the aesthetic logic of drones, though, shrugged off the stigma of poor imitations of the humans to become something else, something purely mimetic, something that allowed the seductive power of drones to disguise their intentions with the guise of mimicking natures. Drones as flocks of birds, drones as flights of bats and piles of rocks, even more drones as mimetic humans in many robotic research labs and certainly in contemporary Japanese theater. But just as drones quickly slip beyond their first order of aesthetic appearance as pure imitation, so too drone logic can never be content with mimesis. As we know too well from the contemporary appearance of military drones, they've now passed into the order of the hegemonic, that point where drones embody the scent, the visible, risible scent of power. Reaper and predator drones as the spearhead of the global diffusion of technological imperialism, with this inevitable consequence. Like all the signs of power before it, drones also operate under the sign of a fatal aesthetic reversal. That's their truest seduction and their most risible danger. When drones rebelled against the reality principle, by migrating from intelligent automatons to affective robots, to robots that feel, at that point we can enter the contemporary stage of perverse drones. Drones that are finally free to display affect, drones that are free to be haunted, drones without mercy, but also perhaps future drones as memories of bodies that don't matter, as the last ontological trace of a society that prided itself on the creation of its own cybernetic substitutes. This coming age of perverse drones, this coming epoch of the moral economy of drones that in their ethical complexity shatter the reality principle itself, is of course an age that's long been preemptively fashioned in those early avatars of the 21st century, in science fiction and virtual games and television serials and by cinematic visionaries. When reality is seduced by fiction, only counterfictions can really seduce the real back to its ethical claims. When drones operate according to the logic of perversity, only a greater perversity of human imagination can tease out the fatal liminality present in drones. Namely, that drones are the first inhabitants, the original cybernetic pilgrims, of a new technological homeland of seduction and disappearance, of fascination and fear that awaits us. And I conclude. When all the technological chips have been played and the last digital hand has been dealt, we can know with some certainty that we are faced with this ineluctable choice. Not to be either a poet or a data drone, but something else. In the code challenge culture that passes for technological freedom, we've been carefully instructed in the new ways of perception, seeing like an algorithm, feeling like a data flow, thinking like an analytic, with subjectivities packed like a drone, driven by the speed of connectivity with fire eyes like tracking machines, seduced by always greater exposure, attention circulating like a flash mob on random, truly in love with the ecstasy of thousands of distant friends, but no close relationships. Everywhere today, there's been a big jump in data numerology and an equally big drop in artistic awareness of our circumstances. Packed like a drone, what we see outside ourselves may be what the San Francisco psychoanalyst John Schiller once described as the identified patient, invested with our own anxieties, burdened with guilt, mythic consciousness for what we had become, drone flesh, caught up in the suspense and thrill and terror of seeing our previous home of embodied perception and situation awareness and historically circumscribed ethics and mediated consciousness quickly vanish in the rear view mirror of the slow suicide of these technological end times, which are just beginning. Thank you very much.